Hello everyone. I was not quite sure if I have to do this video, but seeing what is going on, I think it'll be too late if I don't speak now. We are seeing people opening up their electric vehicle battery packs. The entire reason why people are forced to do that is because of one company, and today we are going to talk about that company, which is Ola. I am purely going to talk in terms of engineering and in terms of management as to what happened and what can be done going forward. Let me make it very clear that I am someone who supports right to repair. So I think people should be given the option to fix things. But if it is a kind of component that can endanger others or endanger the person who is fixing it, at that point you have to draw a line. You have to draw a boundary and say like, okay, this you cannot do. And that is exactly what is going on right now. People are opening up the battery packs of their Ola electric scooters and fixing it themselves and fixing it wrong. So this is not a 12-volt battery. This is not a phone battery or like a laptop battery. We are talking about a high energy, high voltage battery pack. This is the kind of battery pack that can basically melt your tool. If you use a wrong tool, it can basically melt it to the battery pack. So why is this dangerous? First thing is that this is high voltage. So you can electrocute yourself, you can electrocute someone else, and this is fatal enough in potential so that it can actually kill you. Second thing is the fire incidents that can happen because of your improper fixing of it. And what is actually required is the right tools. You want to do this kind of work, you should have the right tools, you need to have the right protection, the right equipments to deal with it, and also you need to be trained how to handle these kind of systems. So in this video you can see someone actually taking apart their electric vehicle scooter, and this is not just one isolated video. There is multiple videos available on YouTube showing how people are doing this, and people in the comment section not understanding the danger of doing a work like this. They are like, where is this shop so that I can fix my vehicle there as well? The problem starts where they actually solder the battery packs. The Ola electric battery pack, if you see, it is not soldered on. It's bus bars onto which you have wire bonding. There are different kinds of bonding used for transferring electricity through the battery pack. One of them is wire bonding. So the wire bonding allows for each of the cells to basically behave as if it is a separate cell. So if there is too much current being drawn from a cell, whatever wire is connecting to the bus bar, that can just burn off, thereby isolating that cell. So people are using soldering to connect a wire to the battery, and this is very wrong. This is the wrong way to do it. One thing is the soldering is very brittle, so in vibrations it might not sustain. Second thing is, when you are applying heat to the tab of the battery, you are basically injecting uncontrolled amount of heat right into the center of the battery. So it might not fail right there, but it will eventually fail. When you have enough vibrations, enough cycling going through it, that battery is currently a time bomb. How do I know? I did my master thesis in engineering on this specific topic. But instead of injecting heat, I was actually extracting heat and observing what happens if you cool it from the tabs, and what happens if you cool it from the surface, and what happens if you combine the cooling. So as someone who has done that, I know that if you inject heat on the tabs, it's going to heat up the battery really fast. So even if the soldering happens for a very short period of time, you might have already injected a huge amount of temperature into the battery pack. And you are doing it for the entire battery pack. Imagine the condition of that battery pack once the assembly is done. And there are thermal interface materials, different glues that are used to hold the cell in place, to avoid vibration, to transfer the heat. Everything is gone in this assembly. People don't care about it. They're just taking it apart, buying new cells, replacing the cells, and they consider it to be done. And they are not even thinking about what the condition of the new cell is. And people are kind of forgetting that whatever new cell that they got, it needs to work with this pack, which is old. It's not a new pack. It is a used pack, and you're going to introduce new cells into it. That comes with its own set of complications. I'm not saying it can't be done. It needs to be done properly, which people are not doing. From Ola's side, what they have done is, if you open the battery pack of most manufacturers' vehicles, good manufacturers, chances are you can't turn it back on. There is a hardware lock and there is a software lock. It will completely lock you out, saying like, this battery is not authorized anymore. This was not made by the company. This is not tested. This is not validated. You simply cannot run it anymore. That is what most good companies would actually do. So you cannot just take apart a battery pack and put it back together and the car readily accepts it. There is a process of making the car accept the modification, which is completely missing in the case of Ola. And it's kind of scary to see that happen. Like, you can actually open a Ola battery pack, replace one of the batteries from the set, replace it with a terrible battery, a really bad battery. You can buy very cheap battery, same size. You place it there, you solder the connection, the vehicle will run. So you're basically teaching people how to make a bomb. You have zero control over when the bomb will explode, but it is still a bomb. It is still going to catch fire at some point, or it's going to fail at some point. Or someone needs to restrict people from doing these kind of modifications. And I understand why people are doing it. It's not just the battery, the switchgear, every single component on that vehicle is actually failing in one point, and there is no support, no service from Ola, and people are very frustrated. That frustration has led people to do this, because they are They are paying EMI for a vehicle that they are not even using. It's in the service center. So I can understand their frustration, but being frustrated is no reason to actually start a fire. So what else happens when you heat up the battery? You are using soldering and your internal resistance varies. You could burn up the electrolyte. You can have voltage sag issues. So a lot of things actually happen when you inject heat. That's why companies have moved away from soldering or even spot welding and gone to processes like ultrasonic welding or laser welding, those kind of methods, wire bonding, ribbon bonding. And there is a reason why companies are doing that. It is a safer method to do it. It's a better method to do it. My hypothesis on why Ola ended up here is a little bit to do with how that company was, started and how it came to where it is right now. They started in 2017 as per their filing. They acquired Itago app scooter by 2020. In the next 18 months, they already had a production vehicle. So in 18 months, you can basically take an existing vehicle, get the homologation, and basically start selling it. Do some modifications for India. What Ola did is they took this vehicle, and because of who Bhavesh is, he wanted the numbers flex. He wanted to say like this can do this can do that, this has this feature, that feature. He wanted every number to work in Ola's favor, which it did. That's why people bought it. He did all that, and what that meant is while they purchased Itago, everything on that vehicle was basically new. The motor is new, the controller is new, harness is new, the battery is new, the software is new. So at that point, you basically had 18 months, maybe 12 months of it for developing the product as such, and then 6 months for testing and homologation. But these are very tight timelines to stick to, because established manufacturers themselves take 3 to 4 years to launch a new product. They are doing that long a product development if they have to do it from scratch. If they have some of the components ready, the platform is ready, they want to do some modifications to it, yeah, maybe faster. But even then, it's still like 1 to 2 years at least for a product that is based on an existing platform. And Ola did 18 months of building this product, building a factory, training the team. And I'm not saying they skipped test. I'm saying even if they prepared and arranged for the test, they did not have or did not spend enough time to start observing the real impact on the vehicle. So when you create a new vehicle, one of the tests you do is like you do the torture test. You simulate road conditions, you simulate accelerated road conditions. So several months of putting a vehicle in that equipment would actually yield us years of data. Pick up a vehicle and drop it. It's called a drop test. Continuously, it is being done. So that would lead to a lot of components failing. You want components to fail so that this part is the weak part. How do we reinforce it? How do we fix this part? If the swing arm at the front end is breaking, why is it breaking? What is missing? How do we reinforce it? This is what Ola did. Their swing arms were breaking. If they spent enough time in the drop test machine, they would have easily seen that component fail. Their charging port lid is always problematic with almost every Ola out there. How did they miss that? Because if it is a moving component, it is supposed to be used on a regular basis. There should have been a test rig which was exclusively testing the charging port, opening it, closing it. That's it. Seat, opening the seat and closing the seat, which I'm sure they set up a rig for it, for testing it. They just did not have enough time to see the results. They had to go really fast into production. Why they had to go so early into production? They brought in a lot of money. That scaling up is what Bhavesh is good at. He's good at bringing in money. So he brought in a lot of investment. In the blink of an eye, it became a huge company. So he decided we'll build the largest facility in the world without actually doing like a product market fit, analyzing whether the product actually works in one particular geography. So slowly scaling it up. No, we'll go straight away into being the largest vehicle manufacturer. Yeah, that was, I think there was a bit of greed and overconfidence at that point. He was anticipating absolutely nothing to go wrong. When you're making a vehicle, a lot of things will go wrong. And you have to anticipate that. You have to do recalls, you have to fix some stuff, because Aether, Ultraviolet all had issues like this. I think Ultraviolet proactively gave a mud guard for the front end because mud was being slung through the panel, one of the panels. I've heard this somewhere. So they basically tested it for multiple years before that. Even then, this issue was still being spotted. That happens to a lot of manufacturers, to all manufacturers actually. You'll actually start to see that something did not work the way you intended it to. You have to fix it. So when you fix it, you better fix it in like early stages, in your testing, in your initial sales, in your local area. There you sort it out. Also, Ola had way too many variants, and they were doing way too many things in a very short period of time. Trying to build a car, trying to build a auto rickshaw, trying to build motorcycles, that too multiple categories of motorcycles, multiple segments of motorcycles. They are trying to create their own cell, everything together, everything at the same time. It's not impossible to do it. It's just very hard to do it, and you need to have the right expertise if you want to do something like that. And Ola's numbers, like the numbers in terms of production plan for the cell itself, it was over the top. When they filed for the IPO, if you see the numbers, it's just way too much. They were targeting numbers that were almost impossible for established manufacturers to do, and they were already saying, but okay, and let me say they are ambitious in that case. Why is this bigger than Ola right now? Is because if people start doing this jugad, like Indians are good with jugad, if we start doing this jugad work on every electric vehicle out there, eventually people will start working on the high voltage systems. You'll have Nexon EVs, you'll have Mahindra XEVs being worked on without the right equipment. People will start to replace these cells, and when they do that, and then a fire happens, who has to be held responsible? Someone needs to be held responsible. The manufacturer will say like there is an unauthorized tampering of the battery pack. You might not be able to find the workshop that did the work. So we need to nip it in the bud, because this is not the right way to do it. Once this happens, when people start trying to do jugad on electric vehicles, public trust in electric vehicles will drop, resale values will drop, investors will stop investing into EV companies, which is again bad for everyone. So what can Ola do right now? From a management perspective, get someone who has dealt with scenarios like this, who has extensive automotive experience, so that he can direct the company into service and maintenance. Temporarily, you have to stop production. It might not sound like a very intelligent plan, like a company stopping production is always bad. But right now, every vehicle you are selling, you basically have chances of something failing. So you need to iron out that before the next lot production starts. And in this gap of stopping production, build only spare parts. Send the spare parts to everyone who is in need of a spare part. Send it to all the hyper service or whatever service stations that they have. Send it there. Batteries, MCUs, whatever is broken, send it, fix it, and then get these vehicles back on the road. And every battery that has failed, every MCU, every motor that has failed needs to come back to you. And you need to study from that. You need to do a root cause analysis as to what failed. What is the most common failure that you see in the battery? What is the most common failure that you see in the controller, in the motor? You need to identify that. You need to rectify that. If whatever you are selling right now has already sorted it, better to make it retrofit capable. Whatever you're using now, if it can be used in the vehicles that are already sold, next time that vehicle comes for an issue, you can just update it. Keep in mind, this is going to be very expensive. Investors are not going to be happy. Public is not going to be happy. People who are waiting for the vehicle, they are not going to be happy. But this is the right thing to do. Short-term losses, pain for a long-term trust and loyalty for the company. OnePlus recently had an issue with the green line formation. What they did is they addressed that they have an issue, and they said, if this happens, we fix it for free. For the past phones and the future phones, we'll do this. That's how you build trust from your customers. Short term, that is loss. You are changing so many displays, that's going to cost you a lot. But long term, you still have sales. You have people who are trusting your brand because you said you will fix it if this happens again. That is the right thing to do. So Ola is at the same intersection where they can take the decision to basically address the concerns and say like, okay, we screwed up, but we are an Indian company. We expect Indians to forgive us. We'll fix it. Whatever be your issue, even if your vehicle is in the Ola showroom for the last 1 year and a tree has grown through it and rodents have eaten the entire harness, we'll still fix it. We'll give you a new battery, we'll give you a new harness. Whatever needs to be done will be done. This is going to be very, very expensive, and it's going to show up in the numbers in the company, but we will still take the hit. But just trust in us, keep your bookings with us. We'll come back after we sorted everything out. We'll start selling again, and those workers will be perfect. It will not be the current 1 in every 10 work will have an issue. It will be 1 in every 1,000 will have an issue, or 2,000 will have an issue. This is the assurance that is expected from Ola. So people might be thinking like, isn't it better if companies like Ola shut down? No. Companies like Ola need to survive. Ola, Ather, Ultraviolet, every company that is based in India working on EV tech needs to survive. Need to survive the Chinese onslaught. Chinese vehicles have not yet reached Indian markets. Their motorcycles, if they start selling in India, the domestic players are not going to survive. Same with cars. As of now, government is basically just holding the Chinese companies from coming into India and just wiping out the competition. But you can't do it forever. We need to have our own infrastructure. We need to have our own domestic players so that we can compete on an international level. So Ola surviving is very important for Indian EV market. Right? We used to have domestic players in phone market, Micromax. Right now we have none. That's exactly what will happen if companies like Ola die out. Eventually, when the Chinese companies come, there will not be enough domestic players to actually compete with that, and everyone will get wiped out, and we'll have only choices from Chinese manufacturers. If Ola takes other direction and decide to ignore their customers, yeah, I think their days are numbered. You can only do it for so long before you lose all the trust from the customers, and then you go bankrupt. I say Ola, choose wisely. See you guys next time.